What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another Sci'D Geeks podcast where we review and are and have been reviewing the wonderful show, The Last of Us. We here now.
What a great episode!
All 8 episodes, but man, this one was a winner right there. When we're in need, and straight off the bat, man. Just the biggest Easter egg, I feel like, so far. Mr. Troy Baker, a.k.a. Joel himself, in this episode. Man, what you think?
Honestly, I hate the fact that a guy named James played such a despicable role. Kind of touches a bone. Too soon. Come on, man. But after the weekend I had, I have to admit one thing. Not all shrooms are bad. Just saying. Just saying.
No, sir. No, sir.
Read what you will and all that. Just
no,
saying.
sir. I bet you didn't have to worry about, maybe a clicker or an infected running you over there. Maybe catching something.
I'll be honest with you. There were some people who were under the influence of maybe cordyceps this past weekend, because they weren't walking straight. Let's just put it that
way. That's awesome. Hey, well, since in Vegas, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, or we talk about it at the Sci'D Geeks podcast. Why not?
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, man, Troy Baker makes the appearance. I was like all geeky, like when I saw him, I thought that was pretty cool. And right away, like, I think his first line, you can tell the Joel voice, and then he kind of stepped it back a little bit during the show. But like once we get in, but I thought that was pretty cool. Watching it with people that didn't know was interesting. Was cool to say, hey, do you guys know who that is?
Honestly, because obviously the writers of the show have to add their own little taste to it, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have had mind a Troy Baker versus Pedro Pascal interaction at one point, and Troy using his Joel voice when they were being. I'm just imagining them being aggressive with each other, and him using his Joel voice, and just to like dislodge a memory in my head. Like, holy shit, that was him.
Yeah, or something as simple as like them looking at each other as like, so you're Joel, huh? Or something like that. It'd
be like, so you think you're Joel,
right? So you're Joel, huh?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that would have been cool. Nonetheless, what a great episode. We start the episode in this, obviously very cold neighborhood in Colorado. There's snow everywhere. And then, it's the service already with David. Like, they're in the steakhouse and he's reading Revelation 21. I jot down, and it's crazy because I looked up Revelation 21, and it's not line by line. Like, obviously he cut some words there. But he's basically talking about heaven, of course, Revelation, the book that ends it all, right, for the believers out there. But it talks about like people like leaving this world and going into heaven, or going into this other world, right? And a world where there's no more death, neither sorrow, no crying, and so on and so on. So that's how we start. What did you think about that kind of little background that they gave David? Because we didn't see that side in the game.
I like that he was more. It seems like, as we get introduced to him, he is the leader / preacher. Almost takes you to a time of Italy when it was run by popes and everyone hated it. Because you could feel the tension in the room as he's preaching. And us viewers looking in, we don't know if there's been a somber moment, a threatening moment. We're kind
Hmm.
of left in this limbo when the act first opens up,
Hmm.
and you're just like, okay, what are we
Yeah.
looking at right now?
Yeah.
So like, you got a lot of skepticism in it.
Yeah, it was odd because like they start showing all the flock, right? All the people that
Mhm.
are in this group. And first of all, they did dress them for some reason very old school, almost like borderline Amish, right? Like some of the
Yeah.
ladies had their old school. I mean, and this is not an old school world, right? So I thought
Mhm.
that was interesting. And, dudes with the long beards and everything. But like you said, yeah, there was something there. There was some tension, but obviously, we can see that this guy definitely has influence or inflicted some fear into these people because like nobody's saying anything, right?
Right.
We have a first interaction with the little girl that's there, and she's
Mhm.
crying because her dad passed away, and then she kind of he kind of goes and sort of consoles her, right? Too cold to bury him, right? Which
Yeah.
is pretty intense when you think about that, right? When you think about the burying
It's a
somebody in the winter.
it's a legitimate excuse,
Yeah.
and um, I was trying to watch the episode from the point of view as if I've never played the game.
Hmm.
So it was a very legitimate excuse, and it's believable. And to your point, these people, and I believe they're around. They're around Utah, right?
Hmm.
I mean, we're still around Utah, so like very Mormon esque as Utah is. In the cold mountains that they live in, looking the way they do. David just gives off a vibe from the get go of I don't know.
Yeah, it's
Like
it's just it's just weird to describe because we know him from the game, and but they're trying to give this backstory to him, and like this preacher guy, right? And
Mhm.
then right away, and like you said, it's a little awkward, and I guess good job to all the actors and the directing because that's how they wanted to make us feel.
There's so much tension.
Right, so much tension, and like, do these people trust this guy? I mean, obviously they're
Mhm.
following him, and right away, like the first interaction he has with James right outside the service
Well,
is,
before that, he
Mhm.
comforts that little girl,
Yeah,
and like when he comforted that little girl, I was like, okay, okay, less tension. He comforted somebody, so less tension.
right,
But to your point, getting to that scene with James,
with
that's when
James.
you're like, oh
Yeah,
shit,
I almost said, did I say Joel? But I meant James.
yeah.
So much
You said
confusion in
you
this
said James.
episode. I
You
said
did
James.
good.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Buddy boy. So he
Right.
has an interaction. Buddy boy. That's what I'm gonna
Did
start
she
calling you from now on, buddy boy.
wait? Did she call him Buddy Boy in the game? I think so.
Yes, she did. She
Yes.
did. She
Okay.
did. But David asks, like I sense doubt, right? Like, and he tells him directly, and he was kind of saying like, "Oh, we blah blah blah." He's like, "I'm not talking about everybody. I'm talking about you." And then he kind of said,
Mhm.
"Yeah, I still believe." So obviously, if there's doubt or tension or whatever, James is definitely feeling it, right? Where to the point where David has to confirm. And at first I thought he was talking about him, which sort of was true. But then I
Yeah.
guess he was asking about the faith, right? Like, do you still believe? Yeah, I still believe. But I think it was more directed at him because he was like, I just need to know you're with me, right? Almost
Well,
like a Kathleen type vibe too.
like it's he was asking more of, do you believe the words that I'm preaching? So
Mm,
it's a mixture of both. It's a mixture of believing in David and believing in the word of God at this point from David's point of view.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's a mixture of both. And from the get-go, like when the camera keeps turning, when he's preaching and the camera's turning to James and the other male figures in there, you can see the skepticism in him
Hmm.
because whatever situation that they're in, it's only getting worse. and that's why you can feel the tension rising in the whole situation.
Yeah, and the bottom line, whether at this point David is a good or bad guy or whatever, right? The bottom line of it is that they're hungry. They're all
Yeah,
starving. You know, there's no food, and that, my friend, could make you think crazy things, including, I mean, probably the first thing, doubting your leader, right? Like, hey, I'm hungry. Like,
mm,
you know, if I want a good leader, better keep me fed.
right.
But then we jump straight to Joel and Ellie. He still looks bad. He's still, you know, all messed up. Obviously, he's all sewed up, so stitchered up, but whatever. But he's still out, right?
She did a great job doing it, by the way.
Dude, yeah,
Like
it was crazy.
I paused it. I was like, that's
Yeah,
solid. I would have fucked that up easily.
yeah, Pedro Pascal, brother.
And you could tell like she's trying everything she knows to keep his energy levels up. She's trying to she's starving and she's giving him the last piece of jerky, I guess she might have,
mhm.
and leaves it on. Mind you, he never eats it, so it just went to waste. And so she's trying everything she knows.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's crazy. Which is another good point, because after we have the church scene, they're starving, and then these our people are starving too, right? Like,
Mhm.
she fucking eats it, but Ellie goes out because she's like, you know what, fuck this. I'm gonna have to do something about that. Looks at the rifle and starts heading out to
Right.
for the hunt. This scene was pretty cool, right? I mean, the
Mhm.
rabbit scene was a little bit flashbacky, right, from that time where Joel was showing how to shoot or whatever. But she
Mhm.
doesn't get the rabbit. She sees the deer.
What I find funny is that group of people that David leads. They're having a hard time finding food. She finds a rabbit and a fucking moose right away, or a
Oh,
deer
dude.
right away.
Yeah,
Like,
that.
and I'm like, well, where are you guys looking?
Yeah. Well, and I was thinking, right, because I'm like, if you saw a rabbit, like, you just need patience, right? Like, and you should have probably gone out like a day ago, right, to look for these,
Mhm.
um, or for the hunt or whatever. But if you're seeing these animals, although they did mention, and I believe James does mention something about, you know, somebody thought they saw deer 2 miles east or whatever, but it was
Mhm.
dark, so anything. So maybe that's why they were around there when she catches the deer, right?
Right.
Because, and in the video game, you don't hit the deer with the rifle. You're hunting with bow and arrow,
Hmm.
but it was sort of a similar thing, right? Where you shoot the little guy, and then, you know, you don't kill him right away, so you got to kind of find the trail, and that's
Right.
where you meet, or we meet, or they meet, right? David and James for the first time.
I'm kind of wondering why, because you see David. Next thing you see is David and James looking over the deer.
Oh, that's
How do
right.
they not? How do they not hear the gunshot? The deer didn't travel far,
Right.
just from like how long it took Ellie to get there, and B, how long it took Ellie to run back to Joel. So it's
Exactly.
not that far. You should be able to hear a rifle going off in vacant wilderness.
I agree.
So so it was kind of weird that they didn't know where the shot came from. I don't see anybody there, so
Hmm.
it was a little off, a little off for me.
Yeah, it's a very valid point, because, you know, what I was thinking immediately after that is, so we have that scene where they meet, you know, and Ellie is such a badass, you know, even her voice kind of changed, right? She was trying to intimidate them,
Yeah,
and, you know,
she went
basically,
Batman. She went Bruce Wayne to Batman.
right.
I'm justice. Okay, all
I
right.
am justice.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, I guess the point I was trying to make is, like, to your point about the shot, is like, you know, how this should have ended. Just shoot them right there. Fuck it. You know, like, they're looking over your food. Fucking kill them. Fuck it.
I,
You know.
but they said the magic word. We have medicine.
Yes.
They answered her question to do you have medicine,
Yes. Yes.
and, that she couldn't pass up the opportunity.
Right. And you know how that started, which is pretty funny, right? he goes like, "Can I have 10 seconds of your time?" And doesn't
Sounds like a telemarketer.
dude, it sounds like like church people literally going door to door like, "Can I have 10
Yeah.
or downtown Chicago, right? Like in the corner like, "Hey, can I have 10?" And you're like, "Damn, okay, sure, yeah."
Have you taken Jesus Christ as your Lord and
Oof.
Savior? Oh, here we go.
And
Here we
then
go.
and then there and then everything is history. But yeah, so that kind of like little engagement gets Ellie going, and she negotiates for some penicillin.
Mhm.
James leaves David, and we have a little moment with David and Ellie, which is again just like the video game. And even that little scene where they're like by the fire, that
Yeah.
was pretty spot on, man. I thought that was
I
pretty
mean,
spot on.
you know what I like about the David character and how he's portrayed?
Hmm.
No matter what the situation, he's so confident.
Hmm.
He's so like it's like he's like, I listen, I understand you're gonna shoot me. Just need 10 seconds of your time.
Yeah.
Well, if my friend here gets you penicillin, help me. Let's go build a campfire over there that in that building over there.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, like I knew what was supposed to happen next, and I didn't see it, and I was kind of a little bothered by it. Now I didn't need a swarm of infected coming in, hitting them up on that building, two or three.
Yeah.
Just to show that they were trying to confide, they were worried about each other, but then they helped fight off some infected, so they might have a little glimmer of faith in each other. Maybe they believe each other,
Hmm.
and then David should have dropped that line that he dropped about.
Hmm.
Um, we had a party go out of 4 people, 3 were killed, 1 came back, and that whole scene, how it played out.
Yeah, you know what? I do have that in my notes as to what I would have changed, and I 1,000% agree with you. I mean, in the game, and spoiler alert. I guess we should have started with that, but in the game, there's this whole sequence, right? I mean, especially when they're there, they have like a few clickers, a few
Mhm.
infected, and then they run through whatever, and then they're locked in this warehouse where you have to defeat a bloater. Infected are coming at you, clickers are coming at you, and
Yeah.
they kind of have to work together to obtain that goal of killing everybody, right? And then it's
Mhm.
afterwards where we see his sinister side, but this happened in that little fire, right?
Right.
This whole thing of like, I don't trust you, and then he starts doing his sales pitch, and she did, her demeanor changed. She was
Yes.
like, oh, all right. She starts opening up. She's like, good old Ellie, almost smiling almost, right? When he drops
Mhm.
that line. And I get it. I get it, man. Like I get why the show did it that way, like giving David's backstory, because we don't get to play as David, of course, or James, and giving that side. But man, like it would have been nice. It would have been nice
Right.
for them to have some type of conflict with some clickers, and would have spiced up, a little 5 minutes, But who
You
knows,
know
man?
what I liked about this episode a lot is you got to see a point of view, like a camera point of view from different angles, except, compared to what we played at. We played a
Yeah,
lot as Ellie in this scene in the game, and a little bit of Joel in this scene.
yeah,
Um, but we never got the point of view of a camera point of view coming from David or James or whoever else these people that are living on this little town is. Um, Another thing, I love the fact that, well, I should say, I wanted to say, like, the idea that these guys are refugees from the Pittsburgh QZ. You
hmm,
know, we came across the Pittsburgh QZ.
yeah.
And like you said, it was what's her name again that was leading it?
Marlene,
Marlene. Yeah.
yeah,
So like you got to see that point of view as well. Like, oh, and wasn't maybe I'm wrong in this. Didn't they have Frank come from the Pittsburgh QZ, or was he a different QZ?
Yeah, so I believe he was, and I had a little bullet point written down here because I think what they were trying to tell us here
Mhm.
is kind of give closure because in the game when they go to, well, sorry, in the show when they go to Kansas City and they're in the Kansas City QC with Kathleen and all that, in the
Yeah,
game it's Pittsburgh, right?
that's what it is.
It's
Yeah.
Pittsburgh. So all that shit, so all of them come from Pittsburgh, but I think this line was just giving closure to them not doing the show in Pittsburgh,
Mhm.
2, 3 episodes ago. They were just saying, "Oh, Pittsburgh because it went down," and that explains
Yeah.
it because they're like it went down and back in 17, and that's where we come
Mhm.
from. So I'm like, oh, okay, so they're just kind of explaining that part as to why they didn't go to Pittsburgh or whatever, right? So,
And
but yeah, good catch.
I like the little tidbit of why they went out this far. And I'm wondering, other than the infected, who else did they run into? Did they run into Joel's brother and
Hmm.
the people by the dam, the water dam? So like, what else do we not know about these people and who they interacted with?
Yeah,
Now, mind you, they couldn't tell us everything. This would have been like a 2-hour episode then.
yeah. It's interesting that you bring up the line, right? Because just as Ellie was getting a little comfortable, he drops the line about like, hey, like this man killed my guy with this little girl, and
Yeah.
then she starts freaking out. But if we flip the whole script and we, you know, let's say that it's Ellie and Joel, and they run into some guys that kill some of them, right? That kill some of Tommy's
Mhm.
people or kill Tommy or whatever. They would have acted the same. They probably would have revenge as well, vengeance, right? And they would have
Yeah.
Joel, he would have killed them right away. In,
I mean, we're looking at these people like they're bad, and then you
Mhm.
realize in some of these scenes, holy shit, everyone's bad.
Yeah, but let's talk about that. And I think we're talking about, and we'll because that's coming up next, right? So they let Ellie go. Um,
Mhm.
Ellie sticks Joel in the wound with some penicillin or whatever, and she waits a little bit, but then we jump straight into the cooking. So let's talk about the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
They start cooking. They bring a big tray of meat,
Mhm.
and the lady says, "What is it?" And the guy says, "Venison," and then. And and then they start cooking, and then they bring in the deer, right? So it's like, dude. And
The
point number
fact
one,
the
uh,
fact that when she asked and he said it, and that look on her face, everyone's like, "What the fuck?"
right? But so here's the thing: I don't think everyone knew. And to your point, I I really
I
feel that not
I
all of
that's
them were
what's right.
bad, right?
I know nobody else. You could. There's a scene you could tell. Who knows who doesn't know, and I'll tell you about it when we get there.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
there's a
that's what I was
scene.
gonna say. Yeah,
There is a scene where you could tell who's eating what.
yes, yes. So back to your point. I don't think everybody's completely bad. I think that some people,
Right.
just start following the wrong leader. And
Mhm.
in fact, bro, like, you know, outside of them starving or whatever, and how far they got, like, because even James, he didn't look very like a bad person, right? Like he just kind of
Mhm.
just followed orders, almost like Perry did too, and I'll follow the orders, but in this world, it's just crazy the things you have to do to survive. But
Well,
anyway,
James and Joel have the same mantra. They just want to take care of their own.
yeah,
For James, it's this village of all these people that they have underneath their belt. They're not looking to add any more people to it. They just want to take care of what they got. Similar to Joel. I mean, all he cares about is his family.
yeah,
Now that Ellie's his family, all he cares about is his family. That's it.
yeah,
So the mindset is similar. The actions are similar. It's just whose side are you on?
yeah. And then the other point that I wanted to bring up is, and let me ask you, did for this particular scene or this particular episode, would you think you would have enjoyed it more if you hadn't played the game?
Yes. Yeah.
Because yeah,
And for the plain reason of, I think if we asked anyone that never played the game and watched this episode, they start. The whole episode is full of tension. You don't know what the hell's going to happen.
mm-hmm.
It's as tense as episode 1 when there's that scene with the soldier and Sarah gets killed.
Yeah,
Because if I don't know anything that's going on, I'm like, who the fuck is about to die?
yeah. Yeah, it was pretty crazy because that's the same scene where he slaps the little girl, right? Because they're serving food, and then the little girl says, like, you should kill them or whatever, and he goes and bam, slaps her, right?
And that's literally really the first sign that how shitty of a person he is.
Yeah.
Now, I get it. You want to kill Joel. You have a reason. Eye for an eye, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't want to kill Ellie, so we're thinking, okay, maybe he's not bad, or what is his really game about? So we're not sure. We're still 50-50 on it. Not until he gets back and they're all eating. And mind you, when they're eating, you can tell who's eating what.
Yeah.
Because when you look at fucking David's bowl, it's full of some different meat than the stew that he's got everyone else eating.
Yeah.
He's got a fucking high amount of vegetables and meat and whatever stew they concocted, while everyone else is just slurping on some soup.
Yeah.
And whatever meat is in that soup.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. Like, you could see some people like tasting it a little bit, and then some people are just like going at it because they're hungry. They don't know.
Even James, right? Even James looked down and was like,
Yeah. So, but let me ask you, man. I was asking young Rigo because he was like, man, like he was so disgusted by it and everything, but. And it's crazy. It's too crazy to think about, right? But what would it take for you to get to that extreme?
Well, I mean, there was that movie about the Peru. I think it was like in Peru.
Alive, yeah.
Yeah.
But they crash in the Andes or whatever, right?
Yes. So. And it would take that. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, I'm not gonna pretend like I'm not going to. If I'm on the brink of death and I need nourishment to try to climb down a mountain or survive to whatever, I'm not going to kill anyone. But if someone dies,
right?
Yeah, I'm taking a chunk out of his thigh.
Yeah, like, get that butt.
Get that pot roast going.
But and it's interesting because I think about that movie and that situation too, because that was based on true events. But what if you're stuck in a fucking resort, with all this crew? No. So what do you do? I mean, it's cold as balls. We can establish that.
If I know, like, mind you, these people don't know. If I know, I'm leaving. You know what, you guys, and I'm not gonna bring a whole bunch of people with me. I'm just gonna say, look, there's a lack of food. I'm gonna pretend like I'm gonna go find some more. I'm gonna go hunting, and I'm not coming back. That's it. And if I have to like snack on leaves and berries and whatever, oh, so be it. Until I can kill me something.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I just thought it was a pretty hard situation, right? Because, like, if and maybe you're right, you J-Mo can do that, but like a mom with her child, bro,
yeah,
like, and that's where it gets you, man. Like, because you could tell that the mom was just like, oh fuck, but and that's the same thing I told you on Rigo. I'm like, I could say very easily, oh, I wouldn't do it, right? But after, and I'm not going to even give it long. After 3 days of not eating anything, I probably couldn't think of anything but food, and if I have my kids and they're hungry, I'm going to be like, fuck it. Where's old boy? Where's your dad, girl? But
like, my thing is this, like, if it's if you're dealing with like babies and infants and toddlers, but that mother is dealing with someone the same age as probably Ellie.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm grabbing my daughter and I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Now, obviously there's always fear, and you fear what's out there. You fear the cold. You fear the infected. You fear other people. There's just fear everywhere. You fear bears and animals, and God knows what else will be out there.
Mm-hmm.
But it would take a lot of desperation for me to eat another human.
Yeah, it was. It's interesting. It's a very complex.
I mean, they look sick.
Because,
These people look sick for a reason.
yeah.
And David looks healthy as fuck.
Yes, he's getting all the protein, man.
I'm just saying, the human body isn't that good for you.
Yeah. And then, there's another scene. We kind of jump forward or gonna go back and try to track Ellie down, right? And there's a line there where David kind of insinuates that he wants to keep Ellie, right, alive. And then James is like, why do you want to keep her? Like, let's just leave her, and
Right.
then she's like, well, if we leave her, she'll die. And then like, maybe that's God's will. Which we bring again, kind of like the Sam situation, right? Like, just let him die or whatever, right? But up until this point, man, if you think about it, right, without knowing what's gonna happen next, and this is why I kind of wish, man, I wish I didn't play the game for this because everybody else had no clue. I know they're eating human, right? And I'm just looking, and everybody's just like, oh, okay, like what's the big deal, or whatever. But up until this point, you kind of justify David's and his group's actions, in my opinion, right? Oh, they're fucking starving, like
Yeah.
they're looking for this man to get revenge. Like so far, I'm sympathizing, because I'm like, yeah, they're right. They killed the girl's dad or whatever. But anyway,
so let's not forget. At the same time as we're seeing the preacher having his meal, Ellie's back at the house trying to help Joel with everything. She's trying to cover her tracks by hiding the bookshelf where the door is. She's out, on her horse. What's the horse name? Seabiscuit? No, that's not it.
It was shit. I forgot.
Tiny Sugar Dance, whatever. Anyways, she's riding the horse. James listens to David and shoots the horse, making sure she's alive. They bring her back. They bring her back to the compound. Joel's slightly waking up at the same time. And Joel does what Joel does.
Yeah, man.
Takes out the first guy with ease. He was able to sneak up on him. We never see him take down the second guy. But we see what he does to the last two guys when he gets him cornered.
Which is a great interpretation of the video game, because the first one kills him and shivs him right away, right, and stabs him,
right.
And he can't say anything, silent kill, and that's how you do it in the video game. A little square action, and then you silently kill them, which is the crazy thing, because the third guy just kind of heard something, right, like, what is that? And he turns around and he sees this dude laying on the floor, and it's because Joel just did the same thing, just like the video game. A guy can be right there, but as long as his back is towards you, he's not gonna hear, right? So I thought that was cool. But then the other thing, do you think that? I think James was aiming for Ellie, bro. I mean, he just happened to hit the horse, because after that, he was about to kill her, man.
I think he listened to him, and then he noticed maybe there's nobody around other than this other guy, and he goes, "Dude, just do it.
Just do it."
And that's when that creeped in. I mean, I just want to talk more about the intensity that we got to see out of Pedro Pascal.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that fucking scene was brutal.
Yeah.
You have a scene where he's got the last two people. He's trying to figure out who has Ellie, who these people are, where they have Ellie. How is he going to find her?
Yeah.
You see him jab that fucking knife right above I guess, a bent knee, and all he had to do was twist it, and that kneecap's coming off.
Right.
And he just tells the guy, "Listen, I'm gonna fuck you up pretty much. I need you to point where you guys are on this map, and if your boy over there doesn't point out the same spot, I'm killing you." And the guy listens. The guy does everything he asks him to do. He points on the map, and then I think this is one of the best lines. He kills the guy right away. He goes up to the other guy. He goes, "Why'd you do it? He told you everything he knows." He goes. I think he's like, "I'm not going to tell you shit," or I'm not. He goes, "It's okay. I believe him."
I know.
And he just
Whacks
beats
him.
the fuck out of him.
Like wax some Negan style, bro.
Yeah, it's like, "It's okay. I believe your friend."
It's the first time I feel that we see the Joel that everybody's afraid of. You know, the Joel that everybody's like, "Oh shit!" Like, don't talk about him or whatever. That Rob and you know, the guys at the QZ.
The Joel that Tess was saying, "Yeah, we're not good people."
Yeah, the guy that Maria was like telling Ellie, like he's not a good guy. You know, the guy that kills innocent people, and that whatever was going through his mind, which is Ellie, just snapped because he was hurt, man, and he had this like boost, and he just went back to a dark place because he didn't give a fuck, bro. He was just murdering these guys, which again, I felt kind of bad because these guys were just following, right? Like, especially even if we go back to the four guys that they got at the hospital where the Fireflies were supposed to be, right?
Right.
And we see them chasing them or whatever, right? But did they have bad intentions? You know, it didn't seem like it. And
Well, they shot first. Don't forget. Those four guys in that hospital, when the flashlight hits Joel and Ellie, they shoot first and they just take off. And then
I didn't think they had weapons, bro, because I think it was a bat that gets the guy that gets Joel, right? The guy with the bat. And then Ellie's shooting at them, but I don't remember them having any guns. And that's why I was thinking, man, like, are these people just, scavenging, and were they chasing them just to kind of say, hey, we have a community? I don't know, right? Obviously at that time it didn't feel that way, but I just feel like these guys that Joel killed, while they were probably not fully innocent, right? I think they were just a victim of the situation, right? But I don't think they were completely bad. I feel like if they weren't hanging out with David, they would have been okay, Well,
I mean, we get that sense that everyone is pretty much afraid of everyone when we're by the water generator where Tommy is, and they're describing that they have infected surrounding the building to keep the other people away, keep certain people away. So everyone's afraid of everyone. Even when Joel shows up and sees, to where Tommy's at, they got guns drawn ready to shoot them.
Yeah.
And luckily they ask questions first, but nobody's out here in this world trying to become friends with anyone. Not unless you have the opportunity. You have this weird opportunity where you're in the dominant state of mind. Let's say you have something over somebody that you have the jump on them. And then unless someone takes the time to hear them out, you're going to kill somebody.
Yeah.
And that's how this world is now.
Exactly. And also another difference, right? That same scene, almost like point at the map and your buddy better point at the same spot. That's the same thing that they did with the Indian couple, right? With Graham Greene's character. But it's interesting how in that scene, right, the person that wasn't there was Ellie, right? Because with Ellie, and who knows, would we remove Ellie in that scene? Would he have gone apeshit on the Indian couple, right? I don't know.
Yes.
It's very possible, right? But Ellie's in there. He's fucking going full dark.
Here's what I'll give Joel. He only turns into the Hulk when you take him there. He's not like every day living with all this anger, ready to snap on somebody. Even in the scene where he comes up on the sniper that was sitting in the tower trying to kill
Yeah.
Ellie and the what are the two characters' names?
Sam
The
and
brothers?
Henry.
Yeah, Sam and Henry. He begged him. He goes, "Please don't
Yeah.
pop." So like, unless you make him go see Green, Joel's not going to snap on anybody. I think he's got control that way. But if you unleash the beast, you're going to
It's
feel
over.
the wrath. It's
over.
done.
It's over. Yeah, and at that point we go back to the resort. Ellie's caged. And I think the pretty big reveal here is that, obviously she sees the human ear, so she
Well, not
puts
just
two and two
that.
together.
Not just that. You kind of see you trying to see the real David, like
Yeah.
what his real plan is, his weirdness, maybe pedophilia. I don't know what he's really into. He wants to be her friend. He says, you'll be like my daughter." But I you could sense the evil in this guy
Yeah,
right away.
away. Yeah, and at this point I still wasn't sure because I guess I started with the ear because obviously Ellie's just like, holy shit, you're gonna cut me up into little pieces, right? But even though that happened, this guy David is still trying to sweet talk her and trying to convince her. And I didn't catch this at first on the first watch. But he's telling her that you're not like the other ones, and one of the key lines is, I'm a shepherd to all the sheep, but I need someone at my level. I need somebody to lead them with me, someone up by my side, like a partner. And I didn't get it at first because, a normal human being doesn't think he wants her as a partner, as a wife, right?
Right.
But that's exactly what he wanted.
And like he said something to her like, you have like this inner beast in you or something like that.
Yeah.
That once unleashed, I'm the same way. He kept comparing him to her.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever he was trying to do or say, Ellie wasn't having any part of it.
That's right. Yeah, he says I something about considering her an equal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And she sets him up. She tries to make a play for the keys. She puts her hands on the rails. He caresses her hand, which was so creepy.
Mm-hmm.
But she quickly uses that to her advantage and breaks off, I think, a pinky.
Yeah.
I think she breaks the pinky or something like that and tries to grab the keys. But then that's when the shit hits the fan.
Yeah, it's interesting that Ellie picked that up, right? And used that to her advantage in that moment. Because I was still like what? Like, what is happening? And she puts her hand, and of course he bites it, right? I'm like, oh my God, like, this is what's happening. Like, oh my God, like this is sick.
It's funny that, last week's flashback scene, you see Ellie not understanding why guys look at the Victoria's Secret lingerie, why this, why that.
Yeah.
Why go after shoes and not soap? So like for her to know to use like women flirting methods to get to a guy's weakness and then snaps a finger, pretty interesting.
Interesting, not to say the least.
Yeah.
We see a quick scene where like Joel makes it to the resort. He sees some blood tracks on the floor. He goes in this place. He sees the horse, and then he sees the 3 human bodies hanging upside down. They were
all headless.
Headless, and they were bleeding them. And one of them was a child. It looked like, man.
I don't know if it was a child, but I know it was a torso.
Ooh.
Because I know it was missing limbs or certain parts of limbs were missing. And look, I think they left it to our imagination to know if these people were killed by David or they died from other situations.
Yeah.
My assumption is David killed them.
Yeah, I guess at this point, it wasn't up until this point because it's
Mhm.
like, they're eating people, they're starving, whatever. Oh, he's a pedophile. Oh my god, right? Like he's evil,
Well,
right? And
like when you see the ear, you're like, maybe this was just one time. They said they were running low on pheasant and deer. Maybe it was just one time they used the body. And then you open. Then Joel. I mean, yeah, Joel gets in there, sees a horse. I don't know what happened to the fucking deer, by the way.
right,
And then all of a sudden, there's three bodies hanging there. Holy shit!
like, god dang, man, like
Mm.
this thing is just getting worse and worse. Um, but then, yeah, we go back to the cage, and then there's the table scene, right, where they kind of want to
Mhm.
put her, Ellie, on the chopping block, literally, and her first method of self defense is saying, "Hey, I'm infected and I bit you, so now you're fucked," which
Mhm.
actually stops, right, him from killing her right away. You know?
It's it was a perfect little distraction because as soon as he lifts up the sleeve, you saw James just freak out. Like,
Yeah,
what the fuck is this?
yeah, and he gets the cleaver to the neck.
That was a great scene.
That was awesome, man.
Like,
That
I
was
mean,
awesome.
that was straight out of the video game, and I'm glad they didn't like camera away
Hmm.
from it. I'm
Yeah,
glad we saw it boom right into the fucking jugular, and then bye bye Joel, aka James,
yeah.
aka Troy Barker.
Yeah,
That was
and
right there.
like it's pretty cool to have seen Troy, do this thing. I guess, it would have been it was nice that they gave him at least, a decent character with some lines and shit.
Mhm.
It would have been awful if he was just a cameo via, a person in the background, or maybe like an infected already stuck on a wall or something like that, right? So I thought that was pretty cool.
I think they said it in the commentating. He even said that I think he thought he was going to come back as a clicker. So it
Mm,
had to be completely masked up and just to go.
right, right. But she gets him. She starts running, and then we have the restaurant boss scene, right?
Great scene.
That part in the game, man, it's pretty scary. And even though you're not going against a bloater or a clicker or infected or whatever, it was a pretty intense scene, man. When you're playing that, and
Mhm.
for the people that haven't played the game that already saw this episode, basically you're in this restaurant, right? And basically you don't have any weapons, and you have to hide from David and kind of like hit him a few times before, and he can't catch you. He has a machete on him, or a cleaver. And you're hiding, and there's like shattered glass on the floor. So if you make noise, he's just gonna run and get you. And
Mhm.
for the love of
That's the thing.
God,
Like,
yeah,
I was hoping to find a couple of shattered plates.
yeah,
Just to have a camera just go across. Doesn't mean she has to step on them. Just there's those plates that we always see in
yeah.
the game.
Yeah, and of course you make like a subtle movement, and he gets you. And
Mhm.
it's like, okay, let's try this again. And it's like, man, like just the adrenaline that's going through your body, bro. It's insane. And they kind of replicated it here. But they added, right, I don't want to say the word because of YouTube, but the forcing of him onto her, right? And
He tried to take advantage of her.
yeah, and
That's he tried to assault her sexually.
mhm.
Um, and but before that, just one thing, like, other than the plates I wanted to see, and yes, we gotta tread carefully with what I'm gonna say next. You know how, like, in the game you can hit, like, I think R1 on, if you're playing it on PlayStation, R1, and you can like do a sonar to see where he's at.
Yep,
You know,
yep,
I'm not looking for that in the show, but at least I want her to try to hear where he's at. Like a little.
mm,
I just want her to do one of these and be like, "He's over there. I'll go around this way."
right.
Something like that. That would have been nice, like a little homage to. the one special move that we have in the video game.
Yeah, that was cool. Because you can, obviously prepare or buy yourself, I guess, more distance and shit like that. But speaking of that, I don't know if you noticed that when she picks up the penicillin or when James drops it or whatever, all these sounds are like almost straight from the game. Like the water, like when you pick up water, is like you hear the like the liquid moving and shit. I'm like, oh my god, that's awesome.
Explain to me how the penicillin didn't shatter when you threw it.
I know they're pretty thick. How do you call
It's the
those?
thickest glass ever made.
Thick. I forgot what they're called. They come in these little containers, but yeah, I don't know because it's because otherwise the show would have ended right there, man. I don't know. They would have gotten Ellie if Joel didn't have that penny. Which, by the way, like, please, if you're stuck in that situation, if you by chance happen to listen to this podcast, don't stab the person in the wound with the penicillin. Put it in the butt. Like, just grab a cheek and do it there.
Actually, you could put it anywhere other than the wound. But I love the fact that she's like, I don't know what I'm doing. If I didn't know what I was, okay, let's say I'm using a syringe for the first time, and if I don't know what I'm doing, I'm stabbing somebody with obviously air bubbles in there.
Yeah.
I'm stabbing them in places I don't know where to put it. So I'm definitely killing somebody. So at least she didn't kill him.
Yeah, I would say, man, common sense. If the needle is yay big, and you try to put it, near a bone, it's probably gonna hit. So use the meaty parts, thigh, leg, I don't know, whatever. But just saying, in case the apocalypse happens and you heard the Sci'D Geeks podcast, just food for thought. But
hey, you're welcome, people.
There you go. We saved somebody's life. But David tries to do these bad things, right? And at this point, that's when the real evil comes out of him because, he doesn't care, man. He just wants to do this deed. The place is burning down. He doesn't give a shit anymore. And he's just like, well, I might as well, do this evil shit, before we all die. But then Ellie was able to get the cleaver and goes Joel ape shit on his ass.
I don't even think Joel's gone that bad.
Yeah.
I mean, she lost it. I mean, there's no other way of saying it. She loses it on this guy for trying to lie to her about God knows what, scared the fuck out of her. He's gonna kill her, chop her up into meat, sexually assault her, all in a span of 10 minutes, pretty much, of her life. So all that fear and anxiety just unleashed the beast from within.
And the acting, bro, the acting was so spot on, man. Like you could see, you can feel the fear in her eyes and her screams, man. I was like, oh my god. I'm thinking to myself, like, I wonder how many takes it took to get this right, or and how like mentally exhausting that has to be, because I know it's acting, but it still has to be like some type of damaging to your mind, right? But wow, what a performance! She gets out of the restaurant in shock, and then Joel grabs her. She panics, but once she sees him, hugs him, and then he says, "I got you, baby girl. I got you." Right, which is something that we haven't heard him say since episode 1 when he was with Sarah.
When he carried Sarah out of the car. And I mean, this solidifies the love that Joel has for her. I mean, this pretty much has just created a bond made out of iron.
Yeah.
Nothing's getting in the way of this bond.
No, not even 3 dudes that were trying to very hard to stop it. They couldn't get in the way. So this is the second to last episode. This is where the episode ends. What do you think is coming next?
I think we're gonna get them in Oregon, I believe it is, or is it Salt Lake City? Or
I think it's Salt Lake City. I think it was for the hospital.
I think we're gonna get Salt Lake City scene. I think it's gonna be pretty much that I believe they're going to fight some very crazy infected people in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Like we might see a monster we haven't seen yet. And then not until they get through all that, we're going to see them get to the fireflies that are trying to find the cure. And
Yeah.
then I don't know where it's going to end or how they're going to write it to in comparison to the game. So I'm not going to say more than that.
Yeah, I have a feeling based on the preview, I have a theory that we are going to get a flashback.
Okay.
I think we're going to see Ellie's origins.
Yes, I agree.
And probably why she's immune. But
You know what it looks like from the
uh-huh.
trailer for the episode?
Uh-huh.
It looks like the Blade story, doesn't it?
Really? Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Here's what all
Yeah.
you saw was Ashley Johnson, who voices Ellie in the video game. That's her in the trailer, and she's pregnant, and there's an infected coming at her.
Yeah.
So, does something happen while Ashley Johnson or her Ellie's mom is infected?
Yeah.
Cause her to be immune when she is birthed? And so, I mean, that's my assumption.
Yeah, it has to be. Young Regal was saying like, man, what if, like, do you think she became a full blown zombie and then she had? I'm like, no, I don't think so, man. But I think we're probably gonna see Marlene back. I just don't think, for the sake of this show being so freaking successful, and I feel like the writers knew it was going to be. I just don't feel like we're gonna end this anytime soon. Maybe like 2 more seasons for sure. But I just feel like we're not gonna get the resolution that we got in the game in 1 hour episode next week, right? So I think they will leave it as a cliffhanger. I don't think they're gonna meet their goal of delivering Ellie to the cure facility or whatever. Or maybe if they do, there's gonna be a big cliffhanger, right?
I think they will. I just think season 2 will not be like part 2 in the game. I think they're gonna because between part 1 and part 2, there's a 5-year gap. I think I've already just said this to you in a couple episodes. I think they're gonna do a filling gap season.
Okay.
Of their life and what it looks like before they get to part 2.
Okay.
The incidents that happened in part 2.
Interesting. Okay.
Because I think the way part 2 plays out, it'll be hard to keep the attention of the people the way I'm viewing it in my head.
Mm-hmm.
I think what they might do, let's say if they do a remake of the games part 2, they're going to change some of the story where how certain people are either affected by the results of other people's actions.
Yeah.
I know I'm talking in code, but it's for a specific reason.
Yeah. We'll have to see, man. I'm curious because we got up until this point, and I'm curious to see what happens on the last episode. For sure, we saw some clickers, right? So hopefully, we'll have some good action scenes and maybe some of the setting up for season 2. But I hope it's not too much of a big cliffhanger. I don't know. But because, we probably won't see it again till what, 2025?
Probably.
So the good thing is that we have the Mandalorian to kind of keep us comfort for another month or so. But
welcome to Pascalverse.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Pascalverse.
Man, that dude, like the 2 biggest freaking shows on television simultaneously.
I mean, 2 biggest shows on TV. He's already been attached to another big show with Game of Thrones. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, when it comes to shows, he's batting 1,000.
Oh yeah, totally, man. I don't know if you've seen that meme or real TikTok, whatever, where he's with Nicolas Cage, and Nicolas Cage
That's
is looking at him
stupid,
all like all serious, and then he's like, ha, 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 ha,
Have you seen that movie yet?
Oh, that movie's awesome.
That movie's great.
What's the name of it? It's
something amazing talent.
something with amazing
The
talent.
pressures of being around amazing talent. I forget what it's
Pedro Pascal. Now we have to tell the listeners because that movie is worth
the unbearable weight of
massive
talent.
So it's a movie where Nicolas Cage plays himself, and of course we have Pedro Pascal. It's an awesome movie. I thought it was gonna be like a stupid B movie, and man, it was a good movie. But all right, so The Last of Us episode 8 comes to a close. We're in need. Any other notes or takeaways that you have?
Nothing in the fact of like Easter eggs. I was just like I already pointed out a couple of things that I wish I saw.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand. I mean, like this episode was like 50 minutes long. If you added the zombie attacks, you're probably pushing the limits of how much you can show. So I get it. But I think you could have done with some of the less of the preaching and more of the action, but everything is done for a purpose. So I mean, I can't really complain too much.
Yeah, it would have been nice. And I think that's the thing, right? Like that the writers are saying that this is not a show about, these monsters, right? But yeah, who wouldn't want to see a few zombies coming your way, right? So
yeah.
But folks, with that said, thank you so much for staying with us up until this point. If you stayed up until this point, we thank you. Please like, subscribe, share, por favor, to anybody you think might like this show. We we'll be talking about more things. We actually did an Ant-Man episode that I'm supposed to release hopefully by tomorrow. And some more Mandalorian, and then we have a couple of things coming up, right?
Yep.
So in the meantime, at the very least, Mandalorian. But stay tuned. Keep having fun with us. Keep liking. Keep watching. Thank you so much, J-Mo.
Thanks, everybody. We really appreciate this.